Welcome to the Simply Real Life podcast. I'm Sarah, the founder of Simply Real Health, here to help you simplify, amplify, and elevate your life. This show is for those of you who want the real talk on how to live a more intuitive and intentional life, a life that's healthy from the inside out, and one that feels more effortless, aligned, simple, and more alive. We cover it all, from health, wellness, mindset, motherhood, daily habits and rituals, to business and relationships, creativity and growth, and tiny tricks to feeling your best, and the energetics behind it all filled with personal stories, unfiltered conversations, and of course, answering all of your burning questions, all in the way of simplicity and keeping it real, so that you can create your own version of your healthiest life. Let's do it. Hi guys, welcome back to the show this week. Okay, we have such a good one, and it's been a really great and also interesting last couple weeks. I don't know if it's just because I'm running the 30-day challenge right now and working on some other bigger projects and, just finished this brand new website. And then all of the things with kids and school and home and being sick, and we've got a birthday in the house. It feels like there's just a lot of things that are vying for the same amount of time, attention, energy. Maybe not sleeping is great. Things feel a little bit more sticky this week. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but sharing it out loud in case this might also be true for some of you and you haven't been able to put words to it. But it's almost like our bodies know that there's so much change in the air, like change in weather, maybe depending where you're living, change in activities, change in amount of daylight, change in different types of food that our bodies need and are craving. It's just like this readjustment week. I think it takes almost like 2 weeks, to be honest, of feeling out like, okay, where are we going now? Do we need to shake up some routines? Do we need to get things differently? One tiny example is now we have baseball season starting. And so that means there's some games in the week around dinner time and then games on Saturday. It's just a lot more coordination and figuring out how we're going to do dinner and how, my brain is like, oh, okay, how do we figure this out? And I've made mental notes to myself because this week and usually right around the spring equinox, when things actually turn, we feel it in the moon, we feel it in the tides. There's just this shift that starts to happen. And I always know and note it because it's the week of Kyle's birthday. I'm always like, I always feel kind of weird this week. My body feels a little weird. It's mid transition. And I think normalizing that and giving myself so many reminders this week of just keep it steady, keep showing up for myself in these little ways that I always tell myself, like, does that really count? Does that really matter? Going for a 7-minute walk. I'm like, yes, it matters. Yes, because it helps keep me mentally feeling steady, feeling re-energized, keeping my meals simple, having some type of protein, good veggies, things that are nourishing and keep me grounded and my blood sugar stable, keep my movement stable. All of those things I think help keep our mood steady and help keep our energy steady. Even if it feels like our energy is not naturally high right now or naturally really great, or maybe sleep feels a little less, all of these are true for me right now. But the idea of don't disappear on yourself because it feels a little unnerving, it's even more reason to keep doing the small things that add up. And that has been the best part of doing this challenge. I know so many of you who listen to this podcast regularly are doing it with me. And isn't it freaking magical when you see all these women living in so many different areas, but doing this tiny challenge every day together has been so encouraging. It's just look at us, look at us. We are women who are rising. We are women who are refuse to take this all or nothing mentality that so many of us have been ingrained with, and the perfectionism and all the reasons if we can't do it perfectly, why do it at all? I think there's over 65 or 70 people doing this challenge. It's so cool to be yes, we are not going to take the norms and have that be the thing that we run our lives with. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be like the norm. I look around the norm out there is angry, anxious, depressed, tired, fatigued, all these health issues, victim mentality, looking at a news feed, numbed out, zoned out. I don't want that life. And so it's going to take doing things differently than the norm in order to have a life that does feel more healthy and does feel more intentional and does feel more peaceful. We have to get to the root of these stories we tell ourselves and the mindset we have around things. And can we show up for ourselves in these little small ways? So anyways, obviously you can tell why this is 30 days because I'm like, I have so much to say on this. And this really does impact our life and our health and our energy and our vibrancy and just the way that we show up to our life or to our work and to our kids and to our husbands. And it impacts everything. And it's this internal game, but it's oftentimes so quiet and we don't talk about it. Some of these like limiting beliefs and these voices that keep us stuck and are always rooting for the negative, like really spending a lot of time arguing for your limitations instead of using that time and energy to change something. Use that same energy and go for the walk or make the smoothie or go get yourself a lunch, even if you're not making it at home, but pick a place that you know that's going to be providing for my body in some way, giving it something good versus giving it all the excuses and the reasons why you can't. And it's just been the most magical thing to be like, yes, look at what happens and look at the energy, how this group feels. It's like, this is the dream. This is the dream to me. I'm like, more women feeling like this, feeling empowered. Yes, I deserve to do this for myself. Yes, if I take care of myself in these little ways, look how I can show up better in my life because I feel better, because I'm thinking better, because my body is being provided for in a better way. It's just been amazing. Anyways, all of that to say, it's been really great seeing everyone and everyone's feeling like a little rocky, a little unsteady, but we're like, okay, but we're going to do it anyways. That is everything to me. So that has been so much fun. Just like a great community feeling vibe. So on that note, the question that came in this week, I loved, and it actually made me sit and pause. And I'm like, how do I answer this in a simple way? And I found myself sitting with it because I'm like, this is interesting because it's literally what I talk about and what I teach and what I coach women through all the time. But it's an underlying thing versus the thing that most people come into my work for. So her question was, and I'm going to like read it because it just made me smile and being like, yeah, you're right. Like, what is the deal with that? So she says, can you talk about, quote, nervous system regulation? It seems to be a huge buzzword right now. She's like, I feel like I need it, but how? Like, what does that even really mean? And it's really a great question because I'm like, yeah, you're right. It is totally a buzzword. And what do people mean? There's never enough time. Do I feel wired? Doing all these things, so productive, on all the time. And feeling like my body is maybe pumping cortisol a lot more than maybe it needs to. And I would say for most women, this is the case. This has become the normal way that we live and the normal way that we go through the world is all about like achievement and how much can you get done. And we're like attached to our phones and we're looking at screens all day and we're looking at things that are meant to incite fear and meant to incite panic and negativity and all of these things that modern day life is filled with that put us on edge. And so from a perspective of like, what's really going on here? How does that impact our body? That's what nervous system regulation really is about. It's about this idea that our bodies are wired for protection. They are wired to keep us safe. And when you think about like way back in the day, it made a lot of sense. You're actually trying to be safe from something like a predator. You're trying to actually save your life. And so we have these mechanisms in us where we can like hit a button and our body goes into go mode. You know, it's like go, execute, get it done, run from the bear, just make it happen. And that protects us, you know, it's a great thing. And then there's also the opposite mode, which is we hit a different button and it's relax. Okay, breathing, having our body calm down and discharge all the stress. And we need both. And I think that's a missing piece of the conversation sometimes about the nervous system is this idea that we should be calm all the time. When that's not actually the case. That's not how we're built. That's not how humans are designed. We're designed to have both capabilities. We need the ability to relax so that we can get sleep, so that we can actually digest our food. I have a whole program that's going to come out all about nervous system and how much it's connected to carrying extra weight on our bodies and how we digest food, just like the energetics behind food, because it matters so much the state that your body's in while you are eating food. Our bodies are meant to be in the rest or digest state as we're eating, so our body can actually absorb the nutrients and not feel like, okay, we're on edge and we're still going and we're still thinking all these things. And that is not great conditions for eating. You could be eating the healthiest food, but if you're eating it in a rush and just shoving stuff in and it's very mindless and it just check the box, move on, a lot of times that's where a lot of digestive issues start, and then leaky gut. And then we get all, things like SIBO and hormonal issues. A lot of times it can be connected to your body always in a constant state of stress. Is it always in that fight or flight mode versus in the calm mode? My point is that we need both. We need both states in order to be healthy. And the ideal situation is where you become aware enough of your body and what it's doing internally and how that feels to you, that you can then hit the button of, we need some extra adrenaline and go mode right now. Let's hit the button and go into turbo mode, because sometimes that is needed. And then also we would have the awareness to be like, okay, I'm running on fumes. I'm running on adrenaline and coffee and sugar. It's like something's wrong with the button of being able to tap into the other side where we let go of all of it and relax and heal and sleep and do the things that are so healthy for us. That would be the ideal case, right? To develop this awareness of what your body's doing and how often you think you might be in this fight or flight mode, activated cortisol, like adrenaline pumping, versus how much time you're spending in the other side, where it's a little bit more about slowing down, taking some deep breaths and thinking through things. The tricky part here is that our nervous system doesn't only get activated by external things. So it's not just the news feed, or you wake up in the morning and you grab your phone and you're looking at emails and immediately your brain goes into firefighting mode. It's already thinking worst case scenario, what you need to manage and all the things that need to get done. That mode is fine. But when we live in that place and that is the norm, that's when we start to see chronic conditions with your health, not feeling so great. I think it's very normal because you think email, social media, the news, your to-do list at work, your to-do list at home, all these different pressures, like the inputs we have coming into our lives are so high, like higher than they've ever been. And the human brain is not meant to carry the load that we are walking through in normal modern day life. And so I think there's two parts. One, you have to start being a little bit more intentional about what you're taking in, how you are starting your day. Is it on your phone? Like, do you have boundaries around technology? Do you have boundaries around when you're responding to things for work? Or do you have moments in the day where you are not running from a bear? Or what things are making that be the way that you're constantly living versus a mode that you touch into sometimes? That's kind of the best way I can explain it. But the other part of this, and this is the part that I coach and teach on so much, is that there's the external stuff that's happening and the way that our bodies respond to it. But then there's also the internal, where I would argue almost most of it comes from our own thoughts. Most of the stress that we feel in our bodies comes from the way that we have been taught to think about things, the way that our brains naturally go to these habits or patterns, these like limiting beliefs, or a mindset that's really set in fear or worst case scenario instead of in possibility or potential. It's like we are hardwired as humans to see fear. Again, it's that protective mechanism. But unless you do anything to start shifting your thoughts and shifting the way your mind works, that's, I think, where most women struggle with the nervous system, is that it's not actually the stuff that's going on externally. It's the conversations and the ways that we talk to ourselves. It's the stories that we tell. It's the beliefs that we have. These things that are so deeply ingrained, maybe even from childhood, of ways of operating and like the ways that we do things and the ways that we think about them, the pressures that we put on ourselves, the feeling like there's a right way and there's a wrong way to do this. Or like, if I don't do this, then nobody else can, or nobody else does it as well as I do. It's just all this extra pressure that comes not from the outside, but from ourselves. And so there's such a great opportunity here. If you feel like your nervous system is in overdrive, you have to be willing to like rewire the way you're thinking. And that process is much more in depth, more than I could ever explain in just a podcast. It's why I have programs on this exactly. In Simply Real Life, the method, we spend the first 2 weeks on the food, but then the rest of the time is mindset, nervous system, what's actually going on the inside. And that's why the Insiders Club, we meet together and talk every other week. And it's all related to mindset and how we talk and how we think and how we process different scenarios. And are there different ways that we could learn to operate, different routines, different habits, different ways once we do hear a thought that comes in that's not as helpful to rewire those patterns. And so that's why I feel like even in this past year, shifting away from just food, it's food, but it's mindset. Like mindset is 90% of it because it's tied to your nervous system. It's tied to your cortisol. It's tied to your body. It's tied to how you digest food. It's tied to how you think about yourself. It's tied to how you act. There's so much of that, and the perfectionism and the all or nothing. It's like, it's all tied together. And so it does take a willingness to get curious about those things and get curious about rewiring and get curious about what your mind is thinking and how much that impacts your mood, how much it impacts what you do or how you do it or how you talk to people or your own reactions to things. And I think you're like, yeah, this definitely speaks to me. Or, a lot of times chronic health stuff can be a sign that your nervous system is completely dysregulated and is begging you to start doing things differently, to think differently, to act differently. We want our nervous system to work when we need it to go into that hyperdrive mode when we need to. Very useful skill to have. I don't think that's a bad thing. But also, wouldn't it be great that you are the one in control? You are the one pushing the buttons and saying like, okay, body, this is what we need to do. So yes, it's sort of a hard question to answer because I teach people about mindset and nervous system and how it relates to our health and how it relates to how we're showing up and how it relates to our mood, to our energy, to our interactions. It's just so tied together. So that's why when I'm coaching women one-on-one, when I'm running the Insiders Club, when we're talking about things like this new program I'm working on, the energetics behind food, it's all comes down to these deeper levels of our thoughts, our emotions, our nervous system. This whole inner game is really where it's at. If you actually want to solve things, if you actually want to make changes in your life, if you actually want to feel better, it's less about the external stuff. I mean, and granted, yes, like you need to have some sort of foundation of real food, some sort of way you're keeping your body steady and moving your body, drinking water. Like, yes, all of those things to me at this stage in the game are a given, or that you at least know about them. And if you don't, I have programs on those too. It's called Get Real. We'll put that in the show notes. But like, if you have no idea where to start with real food, that's the perfect place to start because you need that foundation in order to move forward into things like mindset and our nervous system and how we're thinking and the energetics behind things. And it ends up deeply impacting us. So that's why I do what I do. So I do love this question. Thank you for forcing me to answer it and put it into words of this progression. I think when you are starting to think or become aware of like, oh, nervous system, like, yeah, I am a little stressed out or my body feels stressed out, even if my mind doesn't, then it's a good time to be like, maybe I want to rewire some things or get curious about some things. So if that is true, would welcome you with open arms. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. So let me know. I'll put some options down below for different resources and places to get started if you do want to do that. So I hope that this is inspiring. I am obsessed with this topic, and it's why I'm like, yes, like more of this, please. We're doing it in the Motherhood Pilot. We're doing it in the 30-day challenge. The Insiders Club is where we talk about this every other week. There is never a time when I have run out of things to say or different topics or different questions that relate to mindset, nervous system, our bodies, energetics. So if any of those options do entice you, they are there for you whenever you feel ready. What a great question. Thank you so much for asking this. And if you have any other thoughts or questions on this, come over and let me know at Simply Real Health on Instagram. I would love to hear your thoughts. And I love you. See you back here next week. If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, make sure you're subscribed to the Simply Real Life podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and maybe share it with a friend or two. That would mean the world.